Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Wednesday, April 20th, 2016.
Commissioner Davis, James, Repenning, and Jacinto are present. President James, we have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Street Services.
Abram Tejeda with the Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Chuck Terhalo, LA Sanitation.
Good morning, Julie Souter, Bureau of Engineering.
Chris Smith, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we did not receive any speaker cards under general public comment nor any of the regular items.
Okay, then let's close general public comment. Our first item of business, the approval of the meeting minutes from the meeting of Friday, April 1, 2016. Is there a second to my motion that we approve those meeting minutes? By Commissioner Repenning. Any objection? Without objection, those meeting minutes will be approved. Let's start with the oral report. The quarterly status report on the digester gas utilization project from the Bureau of Sanitation. Actually, you know what? Before, guys, let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and start with that. Okay. So go ahead, gentlemen.
Good morning, President James, Commissioners, Bureau Executives, Mr. City Attorney, and Mr. Campos. My name is Tim Dafera, Plant Manager for the Hyperion Treatment Plant. I'm here today with Dave Cobb from Bureau of Engineering to give you a quarterly update. We are happy to report that LSAN, BOE, and Conard, we've all been working very hard to get this project going on schedule. Significant progress has been made since the last time we came here. A lot of the major equipment have been installed. As we're speaking today, tying into existing plant utilities are taking place. So we have, for example, the tying of equipment into the existing steam line. That would, so in the future, when steam is generated, that can be used to heat up the digesters. So we're looking forward to the summer when we begin a lot of the startup operations that are going to take place in the summer. And then hopefully we go towards November, December when this project should be online. So Dave Kopp is going to go through the details. As usual, we have progress also on other projects that also tie into this and the dollar values associated with those projects. So I'll hand it over to Dave Kopp.
Thank you, Tim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'll be going off the handouts. Hopefully everybody has a copy of that.
Yes, thank you.
As I showed last time, some of these slides might be familiar per the other two quarterly reports, but I'll go ahead and start from the beginning there. The project location, as shown on the second slide there, there's two main areas for the project. The main one is the Energy Recovery Building, which is being repurposed for the DGUP, as well as the North Electric Switchyard, which is being reconfigured to allow DGUP to tie into the existing electrical systems at Hyperion. Moving to the background slide, the objective of the project is to design, construct, and operate a roughly 27 megawatt digester gas cogeneration facility. And what that means is we're able to take the fuel gas generated through the biological process at the Hyperion treatment plant to generate electricity through the combustion process. Waste heat is then used to either heat the digesters, as Tim mentioned, processes within the Hyperion treatment plant, or send that steam to another cycle of power generation through a steam turbine, hence the term combined cycle. This is a special contract, design, build, operate, and maintain over a course of 10 years. A proposer was selected through best value selection through an RFP process back in 2011, and the notice to proceed was issued on February 19th of 2014. Constellation Energy is that selected proposal, or the prime contractor, otherwise referred to. The Bureau of Sanitation is leading the project management efforts as well as managing the operations component of the contract, which will be in effect starting next year. The Bureau of Engineering is tasked with the design and construction management support on behalf of the owner, and the Bureau of Contract Administration, like on all public works projects, ensures contract compliance, safety, and labor compliance on the project. On the project schedule slide next there, we have a contract duration of 987 days, so we're building a power plant in a 34-month roughly time frame therein. And as we've started on February 19th, we're now about 791 days through that contract period, about 80%. And we expect to be in commercial operation where we start generating power reliably sometime in November of this year. But before that, we will be in commissioning, which we're calling First Fire, and that will be starting up sometime in August, mid-August this summer. We're looking forward to it. And the date of the Scattergood Hyperion Energy Agreement, the end date has remained unchanged at December 31st of this year. To summarize the progress, based on the latest schedule update from the contractor, engineering is reporting 65% completion, and that includes, the design efforts, procurement of major equipment, the turbines, the generators, things of that nature, major demolition efforts totaling over $40 million in demolition value, and of course construction and the startup and commissioning efforts of all the equipment. The 100% design package is submitted. There are a couple open items that we're working through, but it's not holding up construction in the field, as you'll see in the progress photos I've included in the presentation. Most of the major equipment's been procured, delivered, and set. All the major equipment has actually been purchased and is either in transit or waiting at the shop. The two main items are the black start generator, which provides emergency startup for the facility, and also our superload known as the heat recovery steam generator, which the second of which arrives next week. It's coming all the way from Oklahoma, and it's made its course over the last couple months. Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. What town in Oklahoma?
Locust Grove.
Where?
Locust Grove.
Oh, Locust Grove.
The beautiful town
Okay.
of Locust Grove. Yeah. So.
Wow.
And the efforts.
That's all that's in that town. Go ahead.
And the efforts to bring it all the way from Oklahoma, it was a major effort where there are only a couple of trucking companies in the country that could do this and get it under all the bridges along the way. You have to get all the highway patrol escorts all the way through. Make sure you're not going on streets that would buckle under
I-40 the
weight.
whole way.
Yeah.
Oversized load.
Exactly. So it's crossing the border as we speak, is my understanding. So we're looking forward to that. And I'd like to touch on the construction progress based on each facility, and maybe we could follow the picture slides there. I've outlined some of the major milestones that we've reached. Starting at the power block, you'll see on the next slide a picture showing that the exhaust stack breaching has been set and installed. We've got a lot of the generators already set and installed in place, and now we're simply modifying existing pipe racks and putting in new pipe racks so that we can put in all the miscellaneous process piping between all the different facilities of DGUP. The compressor facility is now in its final build-out stage. We have the major compressors installed and set. The concrete deck's been poured, and we've gotten the electrical permits in process of being approved by Building and Safety. There are no outstanding issues that we're aware of at this point, which is great news. The next slide is progress at the North Yard. Largely unchanged as far as what I showed you guys or showed your board last at the last report, but I'd like to show some of the equipment that's being staged for that superload that we're keeping in the North Yard now that we've finished a lot of the work in that area and we have cleared out the space to have that equipment delivered. The next slide showing the picture of the East Yard. This was an aerial photo taken from one of the digester decks. This is my favorite slide because it shows just between January and April just what has changed, and you can see all the piping that's been installed, interconnected. You see the steel that's being tied in for the deck and the foundations. And then last but not least, the West Yard, which I came before your board about a year ago to get the funds to approve additional remediation and demolition efforts around the facility. We have remediation wrapping up sometime this week, at which point we'll begin demolition of the hopper shown in that picture and that bridge that's about 70 feet above ground shown just behind there. Moving on to the planned work. So as far as the third quarter, what we anticipate to complete or have ongoing, as I mentioned, we'll be continuing the electrical build out. And so in doing so, we have a major activity happening next week where we're shutting down the main power feed to the north side of the plant, at which point we'll be bringing in a fleet of generators to provide primary power with not affecting the backup power generation already installed at the plant. So we're having that, we're calling that the electrical tie-in. That's happening next week, and we're looking forward to it. We'll be continuing the small and medium-sized piping installations between the East Yard compressor building and the power block facilities, including the exhaust header, which is several feet in diameter. That'll be going all the way from the generators to the existing stack, which is shown on that cover slide there. And that stack in particular is going to be rehabbed. It was built some 30 years ago and now we'll be relining it with a gunite liner, similar material that you would see like in a pool. So we're going to be reusing that existing stack. We'll be installing, as I mentioned, that second heat recovery steam generator superload next week, and completing all of our tie-ins. So for all the fuel gas piping, for all the electrical, the water connections, those should be completing over the course of the next few weeks. The next couple slides give a rundown, as I think we showed at the last quarterly report, of companion projects, summarizing the project costs therein and how they relate to the digester gas utilization project, and also an indication of when we should have those projects completed and in beneficial use at the very least. And Tim and I are happy to report that none of these projects will impact the startup of the facility, so we're right on target. And we're coordinating with those other construction managers to make sure that things are being coordinated. We've got big concrete loads coming in for other projects, so we just have to make sure we're on top of things and looking ahead. The next couple slides talk about projects that would benefit DGUP, not essentially support it, but in case DGUP's not running, we do have to have the emergency flares running. So, of course, we're undergoing an effort to modernize those in line with the DGUP project and making incremental upgrades to the compressor facility existing at Hyperion. And that wraps up pretty much the beneficiary projects. Moving on to the capital expenditure budget status of the original contract amount of $127,302,000. The value of work completed to date is on the order of $61 million based on the latest progress payment to the contractor. That $127 million includes a $5 million allowance for different site conditions, which 4.3 has been used to date. That means either we've fully executed change orders, per engineer or board authority to authorize extra work per different site conditions, and also encumbered funds for things that we see down the road or we're currently negotiating. And so that leaves us with about $700,000 left for the duration of the project. At this time, we think that's sufficient. There's also a $1 million allowance for remediation of waste materials. We've spent roughly $634,000 of that to date. We don't expect to spend much more because remediation is completed. So there will be a balance in that line item. There has been additional contingency authorized by the board last October to bring the contingency budget amount from $6.365 million to $10.865 million, of which 2.1 in contingency remains for future unforeseen impacts, scope changes, what have you. And then last but not least, wanted to indicate the budget status of labor expenditures. This is good news. On any project that we initiate for Public Works, we have these template values that we set based on the magnitude and complexity of a project. And so for DGUP, it was established that we would expect a $40.3 million expenditure in labor, and that would include engineering support, owner support, inspection, all the city forces, and as augmented and supported by consultant staff. To date, we've expended only $12 million and only project to spend at most $15 to $16 million to get us to the operations phase. And with that concludes the oral presentation, unless there are any questions.
Any questions for Dave or Tim?
In terms of the schedule of activities on the project, are we pretty much on schedule with the anticipated completion date in the forefront of?
Yeah, there's no change to commercial operation deadline or the drop dead deadline. We're trying to achieve first fire sometime this summer to get the turbines fired up so that we can work out any unforeseens in the system. And so we're making efforts to reevaluate the schedule, look at how those activities could be doubled up or accelerated accordingly, and reasonably, not to overwhelm the plant or not to overwhelm neighboring projects. So at this point, we have mid-August as the target date for first fire, and that I don't think will shift at this point.
We've been pretty successful overall in terms of the attrition rate of our subcontractors on the project as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah, our trend with MBE, we've already exceeded the pledged amount. The WBE is actually higher than MBE on this project. At this point, we haven't reached the pledged amount, but that WBE, Women Business Enterprise contractor, is the electrical. And that's typically some of the final components of the construction work that's done before startup. So we expect over the course of the next few months to catch up and exceed those numbers.
Well, that's good news given the fact that this is a subspecialty area where often it's difficult or challenging, to say the least, to find sometimes WBEs and MBEs to the level that we would often like. So I think that's good news.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Repenning.
Just a question on the actual handling of the gas that we're generating. And, you know, I think it's something that is probably on people's minds right now after kind of Porter Ranch. We're not an agency that has typically handled energy. And so I guess what would we say to the public about any safety measures that are being taken?
In terms of risk, things like that.
Right.
I wouldn't want to speak for Tim. I don't know if you'd want to mention, as far as the plant process is going.
Yeah, in essence, basically, we have a substantial history of doing this where we generate the gas from our anaerobic digesters, and that gas we've been sending to Scattergood, the DWP plant next door. So it's not going to be much different in the sense now we have a shorter distance to send it in-house. Usually with the digester gas, on top of the digester dome, we have automatic shut-off systems that we work with the fire department to ensure that they are in good working condition. We actually went to LAX, I think about a week and a half, to meet with the fire department staff there to make them apprised of what's happening on the project, and to also coordinate all our contingency plans. So if anything, for any reason goes wrong, then we've gone through the exercises of knowing how we contact each other, how we keep lines of communication open. So we're constantly doing maintenance on our equipment, checking them. They have the shut-off systems associated with them, and then we are also required to have a risk management prevention plan, which now we are updating to include the aspects of dig-up and all the new facilities that are going to come on site. And we have the quarterly meetings that we have with the city of El Segundo, our next door neighbor, and we keep them apprised of everything that's going on site.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Repenning. Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you. Dave and Tim, thank you for the report, excellent report, quarterly report. You know, it's a big moment. Come January 1st, we're going to be off from Scattergood, and we're going to be generating our own power, so it's a big moment for all our bureaus. And I just had a question regarding the delta from the projected labor expenditures. You know, we're planned at 40, and we're projected to end at 15. Why the big delta?
This could be, related to the design-build nature of the project, where you have the designer on the contractor side. So on our typical template values, we would account for us doing a lot of the design efforts. That could be where some of that comes from. But I could do some looking into to find out. But typically, we don't have projects that exceed this value. So it could be, a matter of, revisiting our template values for projects of this magnitude. But it could be just, our management practices have, we've made the best use of our staff.
It's significant. It's $25 million. Yeah. And so would that be net savings to the project?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be more of a hidden soft cost as opposed to the capital cost, which we usually speak to when going to the board.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cinto. Anything further? Thank you, gentlemen. Nice job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the summary as well, the handout. Agenda item, so the oral report will be received. Agenda item number 1. Attorneys for Southern California IBEW NECA Trust Funds has transmitted a stop notice in the amount of $30,252.52 against Steiny and Company Incorporated in connection with the LAPD New Northeast Area Police Station project. The contractors Bernard's Brothers Incorporated. Is there a motion on agenda item number 1 by Commissioner Rodriguez? I'll second it. That we receive agenda item number 1. Any objection? Without objection, we'll receive agenda item number 1. Any problem sending it forthwith? We'll send number 1 forthwith. Mr. Executive Officer, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Okay, then we are adjourned, everyone. Thank you.